the kind of heartbeat drum intro to a tune called Dance of the Flames, which was the title track of the second Incantation album back in something like 1983. It's actually a panpipe tune, and as such is very atmospheric on the panpipes, but obviously this version is on whistle, so it's going to have to sound very different, but you're going to have to get the same, or attempt to get the same atmosphere out of a whistle as you can out of Andean panpipes. And to do that, you're going to have to play the tune quite differently to how you would do it on panpipes. It starts off seemingly in the key of A minor, and so I've got this. Is that what? Just play it again if you would. Oh no, what key is that in? So it's in B minor. So this is an A whistle. I've just been handed. It's by Roy McManus. I've never seen anything like this in my life, and to be honest with you, I've only just played it for a couple of minutes, and it didn't exist when this track was recorded, but had it existed I would have played it on this because it's perfect for it. It's in some kind of Mediterranean olive wood, and that tune just plays itself on this whistle. So yeah. Let me explain a few techniques. One of them is that I've just done is something that I call the fall off, and it's used for expressive purposes, probably more in these slow type of tunes than faster ones. And what I mean is this. That is what I call a fall off, and you can do one again at the end of the second phrase. And fall offs can be done in different ways depending on what note it is you're trying to fall off. I mean, some notes you can't fall off. For example, the bell note, you can't really fall off that because you just dip into the octave below. But I do it on that note in the opening phrase. It's a combination of just sliding your finger over the note below and also decreasing your breath at the same time, so that the note would sag anyway if you did the breath thing. But you can just help it on its way and sculpt the fall off a bit more by adding the finger slide. And it's a technique that works best in recording if you play with the reverb that you're using, whether your reverb is natural, whether you're recording in a really live place like a church or somewhere like that and you can use the live reverb, or whether you're using digital or some other kind of artificial reverb. Once you get the feel of the reverb length, whatever that may be, then you can tailor your drop off to the length of the reverberation that's around you. So let me just play the whole tune and See if there are any more of them lurking in there. There probably are. Now, if I could just say something about the construction of that tune. Once again, you can hear that the tune is constructed with like the opening phrase, which is then repeated, and then you go into the second phrase, which is then repeated, and then you've got these little kind of bits at the end where the last phrase of the tune is repeated a couple of times as a kind of cadence. So let me just play the second half of the tune again, and you'll hear what I mean. You hear the second half played once, then played again, and then with these little tails on the end, using the last bit of the tune. How to go? Repeat. So that's the whole tune, and then you know, you could repeat the tune endlessly, or you could do what I've done in this, and what we did originally in the incantation version, is to modulate and play the next verse in a new key. And so what we did with it is move on from this A whistle to a D, both high and low. And this is where this kind of whistle comes into its own, because this is quite a heavy, chunky low D, and it's not that good for really fast tonguing like we had in some of the earlier winos and stuff like that. But for a tune like this, where you're really pushing the tone and bending and you know, trying to wring the maximum out of it, this kind of really chunky whistle is perfect for it. And it's exactly the same fingering as you had in the B minor version. It's just gone up by a perfect fourth, and, or in this case, as it's lower, down a perfect fifth. And you need to warm it up, especially at this time of year, mid to late December. You can hear that that whistle has got lots of coloration in the tone, and if I were to play the same thing on another whistle which is much more neutral, see this one, is does what it says on the tin. I mean, it kind of, it plays it all very nicely, but it's kind of on or off, I find, this one. But it would be very good for faster music, whereas this one, not so much. So another reason for having more than one instrument in your collection, I mean, players of other instruments may have a kind of main one that they play, but most players will have more than one instrument, and will find that even just for a break from their main instrument they will pick up another one, and even just practice on it, not necessarily play it in gigs or on recordings, but just have different ones around, so you you just get the spread the feel around, as it were. And these ones can clog a bit more than the simpler ones. Yeah, I just find that I can get more tone. Yeah, that one's got a good tone, but it's just got the one. So for a slow tune like this, I'd always go for your more complex, if at times harder to play, whistle. And of course, because that's a D, and because we've modulated on the recording, I've actually doubled it and also played it in harmony, so the harmony to it would be this. Etc, etc. I mean, it's all kind of either a third or a fourth underneath the tune, because that's the kind of Andean way. In Celtic music, you don't have tunes harmonised like that so often, but in Andean music, you will very, very often have tunes played in thirds, or where the part of the tune where it's appropriate, perhaps at the end of the tune, or some other part in fourths. So thirds, fourths. You'd have maybe the tune played once by one player, and then the other player would join in harmony, and that's very common. So that wraps up Dance of the Flames. Let's see what's next.